Right friends, welcome back to comprehension and vocabulary. There is a slight delay today because of some problem with the systems, and today our topic is basically discussion on this wealthy and wise, this business line editorial which appeared on 14th March, and tomorrow we are going to deliberate on today's editorial, that is with regard to foreign investment flows, right. So, let us go ahead, wealthy and wise. So, I may not be able to highlight the things because of some problem with this Wacom machine, and I will continue my discussion. So, this is wealthy and wise. This is with regard to accredited investor. And what is the meaning of accredited investor? And here wealthy and wise, an accredited investor framework is desirable. And before going ahead, I would like to explain you about certain aspects. What are normal financial instruments? Normal financial instruments are debt, equity, if you are applying or if you are investing in Reliance Industries shares, that is equity instrument. If you are investing in some debentures or bonds, they are debt instruments. So, these are normal instruments, but nowadays there are several complex financial instruments are coming up. What are these complex financial investments? So, the complex financial investments nowadays, we are seeing this angel investments, at the same time venture capital, angel investments, venture capital, at the same time crowdfunding, and at the same time peer to peer lending. So, these are all new types of complex financial instruments, and the editorial is with regard to how to save the investor, how to save the investor when he is investing in some complex financial products. So, that is all about this editorial, wealthy and wise. An accredited investor framework is desirable. Financial awareness rather than net worth is essential to invest in risky alternate assets. What is meant by accredited investor? Accredited investor is, this is the practice in vogue in Western countries. If you look at United States of America, it defines its Securities and Exchange Board of India like institution, which is US Securities and Exchange Commission or SEC, that defines the meaning of accredited investor. That means, this is the person or entity that can deal with securities not registered with the financial authorities. So, a person or entity that can deal with securities not registered with financial authorities. So, in a nutshell, if I want to invest in crowdfunding, or if I want to invest in angel investment, if I want to invest in venture capital, then I should have some knowledge, otherwise my money will go away. So, accredited investor means now the SEBI is looking at the concept of accredited investor. So, recognizing the investors, you are fit for investments in complex financial instruments like venture capital, like crowdfunding, like peer to peer lending, all these things, the investor will be accredited, or you can say recognition will be given to the investor for investments in those typical complex financial products. Then rather than, this is basically instead of, basically to indicate preference, I gave one example, and at the same time we deliberated several times with regard to angel investment and venture capital. We deliberated several times about angel investment and venture capital. So, these are examples of alternative investment funds. So far, we hear about something debt instruments, equity instruments, but nowadays complex financial products are also coming like angel investment, venture capital. So, the investor must know the risks associated with the investments in such financial instruments. For that, Securities and Exchange Board of India is thinking of giving recognition as accredited investor, so that people can very well know about the risks associated with complex financial products. Globally, financial products are acquiring greater sophistication with interconnected markets and digital innovation. Nowadays, digital innovation is taking place and financial products are acquiring greater sophistication. What is the meaning of sophistication? One meaning is knowing about culture, fashion and other matters that are socially important. So, we call so and so is a sophisticated person. The meaning is he knows about culture, fashion and other matters. And the other meaning of sophistication is to bring to a more developed, complex or refined form. So, the financial products nowadays are having more sophistication. That means they are more developed in complex way, or you can say so many features, so many traits are inculcated in one financial product. That is the meaning of sophistication in this particular context. So, globally financial products are acquiring greater sophistication with the interconnected markets and digital innovation, but regulators are finding it difficult to keep up. In fact, regulators like SEBI, they are finding it difficult to keep up. Next one is the big dilemma for financial regulators is how they can shield uninformed investors from the risks of new asset classes. So, the new asset classes are coming up. The new asset classes are angel investments, venture capitals, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending. So, all these are new asset classes, and now the securities agencies or you can say agencies like SEBI are not able to raise up to that level, and the big dilemma for financial regulators is how they can shield uninformed investors. So, the meaning is here nowadays financial products are more and more sophisticated, that is one aspect, and under these circumstances the dilemma is basically the situation in which a difficult choice has to be made between two different things. When difficult choice is to be made, then we say dilemma. Look at the example. He is a senior vice president in Vodafone, and recently he has got an offer from Airtel, and he is now in a dilemma whether to accept the offer or not. So, he is doing a good job in Vodafone. Now, equally or somewhat better offer he got from Airtel. Now, he is in a dilemma. So, it is not easy to decide. Under those circumstances only, you have to use the dilemma, not always. So, it is a difficult choice to be made. Then use this word dilemma. Then shield. Shield means basically providing protection. Literal meaning is providing protection. A coat of paint every year acts as a shield against corrosion. That is one meaning. Here basically the helmet will act as a shield from a serious fall while driving a bike, and in the present context it indicates that protecting the investors. So, now the big responsibility or the big dilemma for financial regulators like SEBI is how they can protect uninformed investors from the risks of new asset classes while still enabling innovative forms of fundraising for firms. So, the biggest dilemma is by enabling, that means by allowing innovative forms of funds for the firms, firms can raise money in innovative forms, as I have already told you, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, or some examples what I mean to say. All of them are not approved by SEBI, that is different story. Now, the SEBI's biggest dilemma is enabling innovative forms of funding for the firms, at the same time how to protect the interests of the investors. So, this is the big dilemma for financial regulators. So, on one side they have to allow the firms to raise money through innovative forms of funding, and at the same time investors are to be protected So, how to strike a balance? So, the big dilemma for the financial regulators is how to shield the investors, at the same time allowing these innovative forms by the firms, right. So, let us go ahead. This is innovative, we have already discussed. It is new methods or ideas, innovative forms of investment methods nowadays. Many things are coming up. Therefore, it is good to see SEBI exploring the concept of accredited investors for alternative assets in the Indian market. So, now SEBI, that is the capital market regulator, is exploring the concept of accredited investor. So, accredited investor means the informed investor, that means whenever any investor is investing in alternative asset class, then that investor is to be accredited by the regulator, that means he knows something. So, SEBI will certify the investor, he is known about the aspects and risks. So, that is the meaning of accredited investor. So, some organization has to recognize his capability. Here, SEBI will recognize the capability of individuals with regard to the investments in alternate investments. So, by allowing retail investors to formally validate their financial awareness. So, what is the meaning of accreditation? Accreditation is basically validating their financial awareness. If I want to invest in some venture capital fund, then I should know something about that venture capital fund, otherwise I will lose my money. So, here the paragraph says about that by allowing retail investors means like you and me. So, retail investors to formally validate their financial awareness. The process of accreditation ensures that the eligibility criteria for participating in high risk, high return assets are more on financial savvy than on net worth. So, here the paragraph says that here the accreditation process by allowing retail investors to formally validate their financial awareness, the process of accreditation ensures that the eligibility criteria for participating in high risk, high return assets are based more on financial savvy than on net worth. So, here investments in these type of high risk assets must be based more on financial awareness than on net worth. So, there is a feeling that the high net worth individuals can participate in this alternative investments, but here the point is it requires more knowledge than net worth. So, here what is the meaning of savvy? Savvy means basically knowledge and basically which can use common sense and good judgment. So, you can say the person with the practical knowledge and ability are considered as a savvy. Here I gave one example, Iram Sharmila, all of you are familiar with Iram Sharmila. She fought against the Armed Forces Special Powers Act for 16 years and she lacked the necessary political savvy and hence she faced the ignominious defeat by polling just 90 votes. She contested in Manipur Assembly elections. She fought for 16 years against the implementation of Armed Forces Special Powers Act, but still she got just 90 votes. So, she lacked necessary political savvy. Savvy means knowledgeable, who can use common sense and good judgment, that is savvy. And at the same time net worth. Net worth is basically, this is the amount by which assets exceed liabilities. Please look into this example. He got some house, he also has got some liabilities and these assets minus liabilities is the technical term for net worth. So, the paragraph says the accredited investor must be based on knowledge than on net worth. Previously, there was a concept that high net worth individuals can invest in this risky asset classes, but now the paragraph says that it should be more based on practical knowledge and ability than on net worth. He is further expanding, protecting the small investor. Protecting the small investor has been the cornerstone. That is the fundamental. Cornerstone means it is something of great importance. Cornerstone means something of great importance that everything else depends on. So, here protecting the small investor has been the cornerstone of India's securities market laws for many years. So, the most important aspect, the most central aspect of SEBI is to protect small investor, and SEBI regulations now rely solely on ticket size to sift retail investors in riskier assets such as SME public offers, portfolio management services, and at the same time venture funds and angel funds. So, here the cornerstone is to protect the small investor, and the SEBI regulations at present solely. So, what is the meaning of solely? Solely means here it is basically, I gave one example, the massive victory of Bharatiya Janata Party in Uttar Pradesh can be solely attributed to the personal charisma of Narendra Modi. So, here this is basically because of singular reason, that is solely. So, the massive victory of BJP in Uttar Pradesh can be solely attributed to the personal charisma of Narendra Modi. So, here let us look at the paragraph here, and SEBI regulations now rely solely on ticket size to sift retail investors. So, here what is the meaning of sift? Sift means examine something thoroughly so as to isolate that which is most important. So, sift, this word you frequently come across, this is examining something thoroughly so as to isolate that which is more important. So, here journalists through their analysis sift the truth from many layers of untruth which is available everywhere. So, here sift. So, now what is the policy of SEBI? The policy of SEBI is SEBI regulations now solely rely on ticket size to sift retail investors, to protect retail investors or to separate retail investors. The existing data is solely based on ticket size. What is the meaning of ticket size? Ticket size means so and so limit. If to invest in portfolio management services, 25 lakhs. Venture funds something. So, at present SEBI regulations are only based on a ticket size or the size of investment. So, it is not differentiating between whether the investor is knowledgeable or not. It is simply fixing that if you are investing 25 lakhs, you can invest in portfolio management services. So, at present SEBI's rules only stipulate the size of investment to separate retail investors, but the most important aspect is the ticket size is very the knowledge or information is very important, right. So, here portfolio management services, here as per the SEBI guidelines, minimum 25 lakh is required to invest in portfolio management service. Minimum 25 lakh is required to invest in a portfolio management service. Basically, portfolio management services are, these are used by high net worth investors to invest in stocks. So, here high net worth investors basically go to the brokerage house and somebody else will invest on behalf of you. That is a portfolio management service. You may not have time, you are the rich person, somebody else will operate your investments. So, that is portfolio management services. So, for investments in portfolio management services as well as other investments like venture capital, then angel investments, at present limit is fixed. So, that is solely ticket size. So, angel investment, venture capital I discussed several times. So, these are all examples of alternative investment funds. However, the definition of a small investor is fluid, and here the world situation at present is fluid. Please look into this example. Situation or ideas that are not fixed and are likely to change, often repeatedly and unexpectedly. So, when the ideas are changing unexpectedly, so the situation is stated as fluid. Example is, the situation in the United States of America at present is very fluid. However, the definition of small investor is fluid. While a minimum 1 lakh subscription is needed for an SME IPO, the bar is at rupees 1 crore for private equity or angel funds. So, here the crux of the matter is, at present, to separate or to protect the small investors' interests, at present the stipulation followed by SEBI is basically the ticket size or the size of investment. If some investor, retail investor, is to invest in SME IPO, small and medium enterprises initial public offer, it is 1 lakh, and angel funds or private equity, that is rupees 1 crore, portfolio management services, that is rupees 25 lakh. So, like that, the ticket size specified by SEBI is different, and the definition of small investor is, that's why fluid. Fluid means it is not fixed, it varies, right. Here the next one is, the many securities scams have also shown us that not all wealthy investors are well informed. So, in the securities scam, it was shown that all the wealthy investors are well informed. The meaning here is that all the high net worth individuals, they are not knowledgeable. That is why high net worth investors lost money in collective investment schemes, NSCL and art funds. What is meant by collective investment schemes? Collective investment scheme is, the money will be collected from various individuals and that will be invested. The money collected from various individuals, that will be maintained by somebody and they will invest in something. Normally these type of investments, they guarantee and they get the customers or investors stating that they will give 100 take trees, 100 so and so trees if they invest so and so. So, these are collective investment schemes, and SEBI is the regulator if the investment is 100 crores or more. So, these are collective investment schemes. Several investors are duped, and high net worth investors are also lost money in collective investment schemes. Art funds, there is one category of fund. These are the investment in the works of famous artists, apart from sculptors, photographs and other forms of contemporary Indian art. So, in art funds, collective investment schemes, several high net worth individuals also lost money. So, what I mean to convey, or what the passage means to convey is, here the knowledge is very, very important than the net worth. So, for accredited investor, the basic requirement is having knowledge, not the net worth. So, this is the crux of the paragraph. In contrast, he is telling the opposite thing. Contrast means basically difference between two or more things. So, in contrast, many less affluent investors are financially savvy and may be keen to participate in equity crowdfunding. So, previous paragraph he stated, several rich people, high net worth individuals lost their money in collective investment schemes, art funds, but at the same time, in contrast, many less affluent investors are financially savvy, are financially knowledgeable and may be keen to participate in equity crowdfunding. Crowdfunding means, let us take one example. Some boys decided to go for some short film and the money they will generate through crowdfunding. So, here It is the practice of funding a project or venture by raising monetary contributions from large number of people, that is crowdfunding, and it is a form of crowdsourcing. So, it is considered as an alternative finance method, right. Then here several less affluent investors are financially savvy and may be keen to participate in equity crowdfunding or create wealth through portfolio management services or SME IPOs. Here the crux of the matter is some high net worth individuals lost money, but the knowledgeable persons, though they are not rich, they are financially savvy and keen to participate in equity crowdfunding, at the same time in portfolio management services. So, the matter here is, do not segregate the accredited investor concept based on net worth. Most important aspect is this financial literacy or knowledge in financial matters. The accredited investor dispensation prevalent in markets such as US and Europe addresses this dichotomy by using wealth and knowledge criteria to screen expert investors. So, here what is the meaning of dichotomy? Dichotomy, please look into this example. In India, there is a dichotomy between what the politicians say and what they do finally. So, by understanding this example, it is basically two completely opposite things. Dichotomy, they say one thing, do something else. So, that is a dichotomy. So, this type of dichotomy, he is talking about the dichotomy. What is dichotomy in this passage? The dichotomy is some of the normal retail investors, they are having lot of knowledge, they are interested to participate, and at the same time rich people, net worth individuals lost a lot of money because some of them do not have knowledge, and here US and Europe addresses this dichotomy by using wealth and knowledge criteria to screen expert investors. And he gave one example in UK as well as here US investors with annual incomes of $2 lakh or investable net worth of $1 million can apply for accreditation. In the UK, investors have to self-certify income and financial awareness. So, here he is talking about some world experiences for accredited investor. So, here drawing from different regimes, the Narayana Murthy committee, all of you are familiar with Narayana Murthy committee. Narayana Murthy committee recently gave its report on venture capital angel investments. So, drawing from different regimes, the Narayana Murthy committee on alternative investments has suggested a 50 lakh annual income for 3 out of the last 5 years, registration with the tax department, and an online test for financial markets, online test on financial markets for investor accreditation in India. This is under examination by SEBI. So, Narayana Murthy committee stated annual income of ₹550 lakh for the past 3 out of 5 years, registration with the tax department, online test to look at financial literacy, or you can say online test on financial markets for investor accreditation. So, this is being examined by SEBI. Once it is in place, SEBI can use this framework not only to enable alternate investments, but also to clarify the regulatory regime for unregulated vehicles such as crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending. So, here SEBI can use this framework not only to enable alternative investments, but also to clarify the regulatory regime for unregulated vehicles such as crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending. What is the meaning of peer-to-peer lending? This is online platform without regulatory bodies intervention. Here lending and borrowing takes place online. So, this is peer-to-peer lending. So far this is not approved in our country. So, peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding, these will come up in future, and this type of information will not only clarify the framework for this alternative investors, but also to clarify the regulatory regime for unregulated vehicles. At present, peer-to-peer lending is one example. Then the next one is while using qualitative and quantitative criteria to accredit investors is a good approach. So, here accredited investors are to be based on qualitative and quantitative criteria. Quantitative criteria is with regard to income, qualitative criteria is with regard to financial literacy. So, the crux of the matter here is based on financial literacy, based on the regular income, please give the nomenclature for accredited investor. While using qualitative and quantitative criteria to accredit investors is a good approach, SEBI should collate more data on the actual income distribution in India before setting the income bar at rupees 50 lakh, because only 43,000 people have declared incomes of over rupees 1 crore in our country, and under these circumstances to decide about the bar, then SEBI should look at more and more data, collate here to bring different pieces of information in order to study and arrive at a final decision. So, collate means, one example you see, the income tax department should collate data from various sources so as to reduce the incidence of tax evasion. So, here not only this income tax department statistics, but also SEBI should look at more and more data from various sources so as to arrive at actual income distribution in our country before putting the bar, because only 43,000 people have declared incomes of over rupees 1 crore. There is the risk of the financial bar for accreditation again being set too high. If 50 lakh is kept, then very few people will be able to come into the criteria. In fact, only recently SEC chairman argued for diluting the accreditation criteria in US also. So, there is a demand for diluting the criteria in US also, so as to give equality of opportunity, right. So, here the crux of the matter is several investors wants to invest in alternative investments. In future, lot of alternative investments will come, like crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, and if the common man wants to invest in them, then there should be a recognition of accredited investor so that he will have sufficient financial knowledge to invest in those alternative financial instruments. For that, the editorial strongly argues not only the net worth, but also the knowledge is very, very important. Don't keep too much net worth as the criteria, because if you keep so much high criteria of net worth or income, then several people will be kept out of the investment plan, and here basically equality of opportunity is to be given. And recently SEC also recognized it, because knowledge is more important, because more money should not be necessary to make more money. The final point is more money should not be necessary to make more money. The reason here is knowledge is most important, right. So, go with the basic aspect of qualitative and quantitative criteria, right friends. This is about accredited investor. Tomorrow we are going to deliberate on today's business line editorial. This is with regard to foreign portfolio investment flows. So, we are going to deliberate on what is the difference between foreign portfolio investment, foreign direct investment, and many more things in tomorrow's discussion at 12 noon. So, I hope you understood the concept of accredited investor. At the same time, several other financial jargon we discussed today, like collective investment schemes, accredited investor, peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding, alternate investment plans. So, all these things we discussed today. With this, let us conclude today's lecture. So, have a nice day. Thank you.